Bishkaro ha! It is I, the Derposaurus. I truly am the Derposaurus. This is the April Fool's Day skizzo rambling, my non-existent viewers. And today we're going to talk about my brethren, Godzilla and Kong, the new Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire movie for the Monsterverse. Yeah, Eric and I saw it and reviewed it back on Holy Saturday. And I'm recording this video on April Fool's Day, Monday the 1st. It's 10:29 currently, so I'll do my best not to make this schizo rambling as long as the last one I did on the spring equinox. Excuse me. So hopefully I can get this video up before midnight. But yeah, it's like April Fool's Day is more special than usual this year because yesterday was Easter Sunday, the last day of March 31st. And tomorrow, April 2nd, is my sister's birthday. And I can't believe my sister is 28 tomorrow. That's insane. Like, last time I saw her was back around Christmas. She and her boyfriend Ryan came down from Connecticut to visit us. And yeah, it was a very lovely holiday season. Mi little Villa Auntie, if you're watching this video right now, I got you a present when Mom and I were in Paris, so I'll send it your way as soon as I can. But yeah, like, life's been good, and you know, Godzilla X Kong, it's here. And I'm probably not gonna see it more than once in theaters, but Eric and I had a really great time with Godzilla X Kong, despite the mixed reviews from the critics. And I've done spoiler talks for every like MonsterVerse film since Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I reviewed every one of them except Godzilla 2014, because I didn't really start reviewing channels my channel until like 2015. 2015, my very first movie review was Jurassic World, but it wasn't until like 2016 when it really became like a staple of my channel. I noticed myself talk about movies a lot with my friends, like way back when I was a kid, and then it kind of just like stuck as like, hey, this is an art form I'm really passionate about criticizing. But yeah, like, Godzilla is a piece of historical documentation. And by the way, this video will contain spoilers. If you have not seen Godzilla X Kong, and if you don't want spoilers, and if you're just here, like, for ideally the second half of this video where I just, like, kick back, relax, just talk about life into the microphone, skip ahead to this time right here. If you don't want Godzilla X Kong spoilers. And yesterday being Easter Sunday, I also have done, like, Easter-themed videos on my channel throughout the years. And this is going to be an Easter egg hunt. You got that? So there's going to be Easter eggs in this video. This one on screen right now is your freebie. Go ahead and comment like 3 minutes and like 4 seconds, whatever time you're seeing this on my video. Currently, the Easter egg is on screen. Comment that, and you have to comment all the other times you see all the other Easter eggs throughout this video. Like I said, this one's your freebie right here, and the hunt starts now. So keep your eyes peeled for Easter eggs. Hey, oh, I love eggs. It's like, hey, what's the difference between you and eggs? I don't know, TVP, what? Eggs get laid, you don't. It's like good roast. I don't roast anybody I don't like. That's the ideal form of roasting. And like, jabbing at your friends. And like, either everyone's there on the gag or nobody is. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, I haven't seen my friends Anthony or Nick or John or Ariel's ever, like, in over 3 years at this point. Well, actually, no, almost 3 years at this point, because last time I saw them all was, like, when my parents divorced 3 years ago, right after the spring semester ended, my mom and I flew back to New Jersey to pack up all her stuff from my dad's house and road trip the Subaru all the way back to Colorado, which I ended up road tripping all the way back to New Jersey for the Utica Zoo internship this past summer, and that's how I ended up back here in New Jersey after all these years. But yeah, anyways, this is the rest of this video is gonna be not the rest of the video, excuse me. This is gonna be the Godzilla X Kong spoiler talk. So again, if you haven't seen Godzilla X Kong in theaters yet, if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead of this time right here, because spoiler time begins now. I love how this film opens with Kong running away from new enemies, like the spine prowlers. That's what they're called, like those giant cat things you see at the start of the movie chasing Kong, and Kong like breaks one open and just like takes a shower and it's blood and guts. Like, they had to make those things have green blood. Because if it had red blood, the film would be rated R. Like, I'm not making this up. That's why the Skullcrawler scene that, the Skullcrawler gets obliterated by Mechazilla and Godzilla vs. Kong. When it gets obliterated, the poor Skullcrawler is the one time you feel bad for a Skullcrawler. Like, you see green blood splatter on the glass. It had to be that way. Otherwise, the MPA would be like, no, it has to be rated R. If it's, like, red and that, like, bloody and graphic, it has to be rated R. Which I find interesting. But yeah, like, the Monsterverse, it's like, I still haven't watched the Monarch TV series because I don't have Apple TV, but I really want to sooner or later. There's two things a Monsterverse needs to do to further its, like, lore and its universe. I haven't read any of the Monsterverse comics, but I really want to. I started reading the Rise of Kiyoshi book on my flight to and from Paris this past week. That book is really good. It's off to a good start. But yeah, like, there needs to be, like, a Kong Skull Island prequel series about John C. Reilly's character in that movie, and, you know, his Japanese friend, who they go from, like, enemies, you know, being, like, the Axis powers versus the Allies during World War II to being friends. Like, that was established in Kong Skull Island. There needs to be a TV series as to how they became friends, learn how to survive together on Kong, with the, you know, Kong prowling around all the other, like, Skull Island monsters, how they got integrated with the Iwi tribe. It's so weird, like, because Gia is, like, the last of the Iwi tribe, or we think she is until it's revealed that her people are still alive, like, in the Hollow Earth, which I thought was a really neat plot twist. And Gia's, like, she's grown up now, but she's still so cute, like, ooh, she's just a petite little Asian baby who is deaf and communicates with Kong through sign language. A great ASL representation in the Monsterverse, because when I was a kid, I always imagined, like, what it'd be like if, like, Peter Jackson's 2005 King Kong movie was, like, had Kong talk for whatever reason like a human. But anyway, he kind of does with you know, sign language with Gia, and the idea of an ape learning sign language is really not that far-fetched, because they've trained, like, Coco the gorilla and like Michael the gorilla, I believe that's what their names were, to do sign language, as well as orangutans in different experiments they taught sign language too. And, like, I interned at a zoo with chimps, like the Riverside Discovery Center in Nebraska. They had 5 chimps, this big, tough male named Stewart, and, like, 4 females that could, like, turn you into, like, shredded, like, mozzarella pasta if they wanted to. Holy cow. Chimps can be scary. Yeah, the premise of Planet of the Apes is a lot far-fetched. I'm really excited for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes that's coming out this summer. It looks really nice. But yeah, the Monsterverse, like, with Kong, you know, and Godzilla, it's like Godzilla dominates the surface while Kong dominates the Hollow Earth. I love it. Like, here's the thing, this film is way more Kong-centric, and I hear that, you know, since it's doing well at the box office, like, Adam Wingard is coming back to direct, like, the 6th installment for his franchise, and I've heard, like, bits and pieces of speculation that it's going to be a lot more Godzilla-focused, while this film was more Kong-focused of these, like, you know, these upcoming Monsterverse films. But one thing I wish this film did differently is have a longer runtime, so Godzilla could have just a little more screen time, because there's so much going on with him that doesn't really get the attention it deserves. Like, we see him, he fights Scylla, the giant, like, sea spider looking thing you see briefly in King of the Monsters that bows at Godzilla. They start fighting in Rome, of all places, and Godzilla just kills Scylla. That's, like, the last word we're going to see of Scylla, which I think was like, oh, she was so cool. I feel like it was kind of underutilized. Same thing with Tiamat, which I believe was, like, if you have a keen, like, attention to detail, like, if you're very observant, you'll know that Tiamat is briefly showcased on screen with all the other titans that we didn't get a chance to see in King of the Monsters. Like, there's Leviathan, there's Methuselah, there's Sekhmet, there's Mokele Mbembe, I believe. All these different titans that are, like, based on, like, cryptids and, like, mythical monsters. Like, oh, I really need to see those, as well as bring back some old school Toho monsters that Godzilla has faced, like, in the past, like Anguirus, or a Destroya, or a King Caesar, which is another, like, primate themed kaiju like King Kong is. Like, so many, like, classics that, like, I guess maybe Toho hasn't, like, really granted them the rights to use those characters, but fingers crossed it happens sooner or later, especially this film is doing as well at the box office as it did, despite it being the lowest budget out of all the Monsterverse films. Like, maybe, just maybe, I'm just thinking out loud here, these videos are very unscripted. They're trying to, like, take a note from, like, Godzilla Minus One's book. I forgot to talk about this in my last Skizzo rambling, My last Skizzo rambling was like 56 minutes long, and I totally forgot to talk about the Oscars in that video because I guess I didn't want that video to go on longer than it already was. But I'm so happy for Godzilla -1 for winning the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. The first Godzilla film to ever do so. That is just beyond me. I had a budget of 15 million American dollars. That was like a lesson to Hollywood. Hey, you don't need to spend like $200 million on like cheap looking Marvel CGI to make a good film. But yeah, so it's been a good time being a Godzilla fan. But as much as I love Godzilla -1, I hate comparing it to the MonsterVerse. People like are just bashing the MonsterVerse while praising -1. It's just like people say, "Oh, Godzilla feels like a horror movie monster, like for real this time in -1." Well, he's way too Marvelized in the MonsterVerse. He's too anthropomorphic. Like, oh, you see him like at the end of this film, like after him and Kong and Mothra and Konglet. I'm pretty sure the baby Kong in this movie has like a name like Baby Kong or like, or whatever his name is. But Eric called him Konglet in our spoiler-free review, so I'm calling him Konglet for the sake of this video. And you see Mothra reappear. Like when Mothra appeared on screen, I had freaking chills. It's just so beautiful to see her again after all this time. Like she's not dead for good, like how it was in King of the Monsters. I was very, very, very pleased to see it in the theaters. But yeah, like, Godzilla's been anthropomorphized for, like, decades now. Like, hey, who cares that, like, he takes a nap in the Coliseum at the end of the movie? Like, he's earned the right to do so. Like, he's Godzilla. Just whooping ass all day, of course. And I love his new design with the purple, like, spikes coming out of his back. And purple eyes lighting up. And Kong's relationship with Konglet, the thing I don't understand is like when we first meet like Konglet, he bites Kong's finger and then Kong basically uses him as like a baseball bat. He just picks the baby up by the leg and just starts whacking the other like evil apes with it. And Konglet still follows him around after that, and it's like the Son of Godzilla film back from the Showa era, I believe, where like Kong adopts like another like lizard kaiju who's like a baby version of him. And like the infamous scene, just look him up. Any like diehard Godzilla fans probably knows is like the baby like Godzilla falls over. He's like, it's so cute and hilarious. And Godzilla teaches him to use atomic breath. There's even a blizzard, and a big G hugs a little G to keep him warm. Ooh, he's just so cute. Like Godzilla is pretty cute, if you ask me, especially the Showa era when they still had the actors in morph suits. He picks up boulders, just throws them in King Ghidorah. Which, yes, I prefer the Japanese pronunciation for Ghidorah. It's the Ghidorah, you know, the three-headed space dragon that you all saw got wrecked in King of the Monsters. Like, I'm still not, like, totally sure about my ranking for, like, the MonsterVerse films. Like, Godzilla X Kong, I don't know if it's really my favorite in the franchise, like how Godzilla vs. Kong is for me, like, back in 2021, but it's not the worst either, like Godzilla 2014. Which, again, you know, like, Godzilla -1 exceeded where 2014 Godzilla didn't. Like, Godzilla -1, he actually gave a shit about the human characters. The failed kamikaze pilot and all the innocent civilians that are suffering because their homes were destroyed during the war. And, like, you know, back in the old days, like 1954's Godzilla, like, Godzilla is like an allegory for nuclear weapons, and he's just destroying everything in his path, just like how, you know, we Americans kind of did for the Japanese during World War II. Thank goodness that we rebuilt it, so Japan is now the first world, not superpower, but like the developed country that it is nowadays. But here's the thing, again, this is why, like, yeah, I do consider, like, -1 the objectively better, like, Godzilla film compared to all MonsterVerse films, but the MonsterVerse films are still, like, more entertaining to me, like, personally. Like, not every, like, Godzilla film has to be a super serious war allegory that makes Godzilla have to be super menacing and, you know, just like a total threat to humanity and, like, you know, the whole, like, allegory for, like, war and history and stuff like that. And at the same time, not every Godzilla film has to have, like, Godzilla fighting King Kong, or Mechazilla, or King Ghidorah, or, you know, Rodan, or Anguirus, or, like, all these other, like, huge, massive monsters just, like, punching each other in the face and destroying cities, and Godzilla uses nuclear breath, man. Like, not every Godzilla film has to be that way. Like, if it is, so be it. If it's dark and serious, also be it. Like, you know, it's okay to, like, have a preference over one or the other, and it's totally okay to like both, or not like either. That's just how it is. And I just, like, I don't really get the whole, like, the constant comparison. Like, humans were just a very competitive species, I guess. You just have to put everything, like, one against the other. Like, shaking like, a jar full of ants. So if you put, like, an even amount of red ants in a jar full of black ants, they're not going to mind each other until you pick up the jar and start shaking around. Then they'll start, like, turning on each other, and the black ants will eat the red ants, and the red ants will eat the black ants. So we gotta ask ourselves that question, like, who shook the jar? Like, why is society such a fucking mess nowadays? Jeez, with, like, the media and, like, what's likable and what isn't, like, Godzilla is, like, feels like a breath of fresh air, especially with the Australian guy in this movie. Like, this is a similar to how Kong Skull Island, like, characters just die for the most ridiculous, like, ways. In this film, you just kind of have to accept it, like that Scottish guy that, like, leads them through the Hollow Earth, like him with what's the black guy from Godzilla vs. Kong that runs the podcast. Like, he's back with Gia's mentor, played by frick, what's her name? I'm so bad with actor names. The hot chick. Yell at me in the comments if you wish. And yeah, the Australian guy and the Scottish mercenary, like, the tree kaiju, like, micro monster thing just, like, eats the dude, just swallows him whole, and they just run off, and they start, like, blabbering about it. It's like, oh, the thing was just eaten by a tree, like, it's just, like, and Eric and I talk about this in our review, just silence is golden, like, less is more. Like, the human character is kind of, like, this film is ridiculously fast-paced, and I don't think it has the shortest runtime in the MonsterVerse, but it sure as hell feels that way, if you ask me. The characters were just talking like a mile a minute. It's like, hey, let this scene tell a story. Like, let us, less talking, let us, like, absorb the atmosphere and, like, what we can predict is going to happen next. Show, don't tell. Which, yeah, this film is quite predictable, like, especially when, like, we see the ice crystal that Scar King uses to control Shimo, like the giant ice lizard they've seen near the end of the film. Oh, another thing about Godzilla, this is the point I was trying to get at earlier. Like, he faces Tiamat, which when I saw Tiamat on screen, I was just so excited because, I read a lot of Babylonian creation myths for my Western mythology class, my senior year at CSU. Like, that was my very final class that I took at CSU. Like, that exam, the final exam, because I dropped that class, like, a year early. Like, the fall of 2020, I dropped that class because the whole online format wasn't really working for me back then. It was like, this isn't over. So I came back when everything was in person, and I crushed the class. And of course, I saw Dragon Force with Eric back in November. Their new album, that's another thing I forgot to discuss. My last Skizzo rambling that in the Oscars. Like, Dragon Force's new album is tight, as well as Amaranth's new album and Sum 41's new album. I kind of wish, since all three bands are releasing new music this year, Sum 41 and The Warning, the Mexican like punk rock band with the three sisters, yeah, they should tour with Green Day this year instead of, like, Rancid or Smashing Pumpkins. Just imagine that, an American, like, classic, like, alternative punk rock band like Green Day, like, from the United States, touring with a Canadian punk band, like Sum 41, and a Mexican punk band like The Warning. And so that's the most North American, like, punk rock tour that exists. Which I guess it debatably depends on what you define as punk rock, but that's besides the point. We can all dream, I guess. But yeah, Dragon Force's new album is really, really good. And, oh shoot, what was I talking about from Godzilla? Yeah, Tiamat, like, I listened to Through the Fire and Flames while taking the Western mythology class. I feel like Thor slaying God of Mangandr during Ragnarok. Or, actually, that story ends with those two killing each other. Marduk from Babylonian mythology slaying his evil grandmother's a sea dragon named Tiamat. And, like, he slays her and divides her body parts into the world. That's how Babylonian mythology went. It's like Tiamat was born from the estuaries when the fresh water meets the sea, like deltas and places like that. These be recording, like, motifs because they knew, like, even back then, that, like, wherever there's water, there's a life. Or actually, I think it's the reverse. Wherever there's a life, there's water. Like, that's why, like, the vast majority of, like, animals live in the ocean versus on land. Like, if aliens saw us, they would define us the planet of just, like, water and trees. That's what we'd look like to them. But yeah, like, Tiamat is on screen, like, so briefly, and she kind of goes out like a chump. Like, Yeah, beautiful CGI with her and everything, but Godzilla just like takes her and just and then he like frees himself in the Arctic. That's when he gets the purple crystals. That's about all that we see of Tiamat, which I was a little bummed out by. But hey, what are you gonna do? But we see like Scar King like have the ice crystal, and we already kind of know. It's like, okay, they're gonna freeze him. They're gonna break the crystal and use Shimo to freeze him, and Kong's gonna shatter or something, which is what ends up happening. Predictable, but very satisfying nonetheless. Because Scar King just rules over the other apes with a giant fist. It's interesting because Kong is obviously based on a gorilla, while Scar King looks like he's based on like his ape followers. He seems like he's based more on like chimpanzees, excuse me, or bonobos. Like not as big as gorillas. Gorillas are the biggest modern primates that we have. But they are still very, very, very dangerous nonetheless. Like I said, like the chimps I met at the Riverside Discovery Center, Planet of the Apes is not really that far-fetched of a premise. Just saying. But yeah, like Scar King was very brooding, very menacing. I'm still not sure if I prefer him over King Ghidorah or Mechazilla. Like that's kind of like a toss-up between my favorite, like Godzilla villains, or the MonsterVerse villains, I should say. Like every iteration of Kong, he has to face like a giant reptile of some kind. Like even the horrible 1976 remake, which I really don't like talking about. I made a whole rant about it back in high school. Was like the only other like giant monster in Skull Island other than Kong is a giant snake that he like wrangles and like snaps his jaws like a T-Rex in the original film. That movie was so bad. It like people in the 1970s are a much better version of Kong, which is why I love about Peter Jackson King Kong. You know, the 1933 original Kong fights one T-Rex, and the 2005 remake he fights three. And, you know, Kong Skull Island came around, and it's like, oh, the skull crawlers, like the giant lizard things that killed Kong's family. And then, like, Godzilla versus Kong rolls around, and it's like, well, first it's Godzilla, but Godzilla shows up. That scene where he rips off Mechazilla's head and just holds him up and just, like, beats his chest multiple times. Goosebumps. Freaking goosebumps every time I watch it. And, of course, like, you know, him and Godzilla don't like each other in this version, but they have to work together. And he still goes up against a giant lizard, the Shimo. Even though, like, Shimo kind of turns on, like, her master who enslaved her basically at the end of the movie because Kong destroys the crystal with Kong's axe. Like then they can freeze him and then like shatter him into a million pieces, which the fatalities that Kong pulls on his enemies in this franchise is very Mortal Kombat inspired. I know it. Like in Kong's with the Skullcrawler who he just like rips his insides out at the end of the movie. Oh god, it's so gross. Like he throws the blade propeller, the ocean's blade propeller like at the Master Skullcrawler. He's like, get over here, like Scorpion in Mortal Kombat. Well, Godzilla vs. Kong with Mechazilla, he rips off like Mechazilla's head with a spine, quote unquote, still attached, like how Sub-Zero does in Mortal Kombat with his enemies. And then again, another Sub-Zero like Mortal Kombat fatality, new version where like they use Shimo to free like Scar King, and then Kong just like picks up Scar King's frozen body and just shatters him into a million pieces. Which I thought was a nice touch. But yeah, to be honest, like, because of how fast the freaking pacing is in this movie, there's really not much I can really say, like, about Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. I'm just really happy to see where the franchise is heading next. And yeah, like, I would love to see, like, a prequel series set on Kong Skull Island. Like, set in Skull Island when, with John C. Reilly's character. Maybe get a younger actor to replace him or something, I don't know. And an open world video game set in Hollow Earth. Like, they actually did something that we wanted to see in Godzilla vs. Kong, but never got. It was like a zero-gravity fight in the Hollow Earth. That was a missed opportunity in Godzilla vs. Kong, but they changed it in this film, which was very well done. I was very pleased to see that, even though it was rather brief. Yeah, I like the spine prowlers at the beginning of the movie, those, like, cat-like things that chase Kong. They were super intimidating because we've been wanting to see more mammalian-themed kaiju, like in this franchise, not just Kong or Behemoth, giant mammoth like ground sloth thing you see briefly in King of the Monsters that like basically poops all over Amazon rainforest and helps the jungle. But yeah, aside from him and Kong, like we haven't really had much mammalian representation, which is understandable because we have a mammalian bias. We're more afraid of non-mammals like reptiles and invertebrates and fishes. So it kind of makes sense to me why like so many of their kaiju are based on those things instead of mammals. But it's still nice to see like a slight change to that nonetheless. And yeah, like Kong Lit was super cute, and like hopefully we'll see more of him in future installments. Love to see how things go. And like I said, like Godzilla is just a piece of historical documentation, and like his popularity, like a new golden age for his franchise is here. Like I'm kind of both like the MonsterVerse and like Toho Studios with Godzilla -1. It's just like, again, it's just people need to stop being so obsessed with like bashing one and praising the other, because they both exist for a very good reason. And I don't know, man, it's just like fandoms are really just toxic. Like I just think about like yesterday being Easter Sunday, and it's like, it's interesting because I grew up in an area that was like kind of like a 40-20 split between Jewish kids and Catholic kids and like the other kids, so to speak, of other religions. So I was exposed to a lot of different beliefs growing up. I was raised Catholic, but like I always noticed from my Jewish friends growing up that like Passover and Easter usually like curse smack on top of each other, but this year they're not. Like Passover's not until Earth Day this year, April 22nd, which is 3 Mondays from today, April 1st, which I find interesting. I'm not too sure like how Passover is determined with the lunar calendar, but Easter, or like Catholic / Protestant Easter, not Orthodox Easter, which isn't until like May this year, like Cinco de Mayo, I think. I'm looking at my calendar right now. Like I just see that April 20th is Orthodox Palm Sunday. Well, like Easter for the Catholic Church, at least the way I was raised to think it is it's the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So the very earliest, it's March 22nd. At the very latest, it's April 25th. And that means like Easter is almost always during Aries season, like my sister's season, because my sister Auntie, she turns 28 tomorrow, and she's always been like a very strong Aries type. Like she's very passionate about being an Aries. I mean, I much prefer the Chinese zodiac over the Western one. I've talked about it before in previous videos, but the Western, like the Chinese zodiac lets me be a tiger, right? Not a fucking scale, because I'm a Libra. Yeah, October 5th, baby. Woo. But yeah, it's just, it gets frustrating with like, because, you know, I still believe in God very much, and like, and if you don't, or believe in something else, like that's fine. Like, the spoiler talk for Godzilla X Kong, by the way, is over at this point. I'm kind of just, like, yammering about life at this point. Like, I won't make this... I'm pretty tired. I won't make this video, like, longer than it has to be. Because, like I said, I want to get up before midnight. So, I guess I'll close the video off on this note. Knowing me, it's probably something I've wanted to talk about this video, but I forgot to do so. Because I'm, like, I've been up... It's been a long day, and like I got home from work tonight like 9 o'clock, and I feel like such a no life right now for making this video, because I took a walk all the way over to CVS, you know, after I took a shower, or like with my tunes and my headphones, and like I kind of just like yammered about the cashier of the CVS about life a little too more, like, you know, because I like to be an open book, and I like to, so like, just being in retail, I know it's like being a cashier behind the cash register all day, and it's always like a breath of fresh air when the customer actually seems like he cares about you on some level. And since he chats you up and like confides things into you, if he recognizes you especially. Because my mom and I just went to Paris, you know, because she's a flight attendant, she's been flying to and from Paris, and she speaks like almost fluent French, my mom does. Like, she speaks like 5 languages. I mean, some better than others, but she speaks English, Lithuanian. You know, I grew up speaking that with her, my sister and I, like with all her relatives, like my uncle and my grandparents in Colorado. But she also speaks French and Italian. I think she's at least proficient in German. It's probably kind of rusty, I assume. And yeah, well, my dad's side of the family is like mostly German, but like they've been here since like the 1700s. So, like, I've always wanted to be more cultured, like, in seeing European cities. And yeah, France was awesome. Like, I didn't get to go inside the Louvre, unfortunately, but I saw the outside of it, because, like, we didn't really get our day started by, like, until 3 o'clock. It's first order of business when we get to the airport after flying that many time zones for, like, 7.5 hours. It's just, like, nap time at the hotel just for, like, an hour, please. And, like, charge your cell phone and just, like, then drink some coffee afterwards and walk it off by going sightseeing. But yeah, like the line to the Louvre was ridiculously long, and by the time we get in, the museum would be closed anyway. So I went to the Musée d'Orsay instead. That's where I filmed that video that I uploaded the other night with what the thinker is really thinking. That was fun. And I checked out the Eiffel Tower, and that place in the airport, I got some souvenirs. I got a new stuffed teddy bear named Arthur, and a hat from Paris, which I'm holding right now. It's this Tour Eiffel Petty. It's like a black hat with like a yellow brim. And I got the stuffed teddy bear, and I got my sister a present. She'll get it when she gets it. And I got a little keychain of the Eiffel Tower because, I don't want to get like too obsessed with finding a girlfriend this year, for example. But it'd be really nice to like have like a new female like companion, I guess. And I don't want to go super far my way for it because I know I have better things to worry about right now than girls. Like, because I've been job searching. I've been looking at jobs at zoos because I had an interview at one back in January, but unfortunately I went through with other candidates. So yeah, I've been looking around like the zoo AZA website for jobs as well as like vet assistant jobs in my neighborhood. So fingers crossed I get something with benefits this year. I can further my goal into like the zoo field and like working with like dangerous animals someday. Like I had this coming June. Like I know I'm gonna make my next two Skizzo Ramblings gonna be on May Day. May 1st this year, then June 1st. Which June 1st was my anniversary of working at my old Dogtopia in Fort Collins, and now I've been at a new Dogtopia here in New Jersey. It's like I can think back 3 years ago, like when I was almost done with CSU. Like this is like my foray into like my field basically. Because where I can't do anything in a zoo, a dog daycare is always there looking to hire. And I said this in my last Skizzo Rambling, I'll say it again here. It's like, anyone who wants to go into anything animal-related into their lives should give dog daycares or pet resorts at least a shot. Like, do it even just like a month or two to find out you don't like it. Because I think this is soon to be like, I've seen 6 people quit from my old place. My current place. Well, my old place in Fort Collins, I saw so many people quit and get fired just coming and going from that place. Like, I lost track. Like, some weren't even there for like 2 weeks. I'm not joking. Like, there was this, like, my friend Brianna, she got me that job because we were both taking the same, like, biology and English classes together. Like, we were both studying the same major and the same minor, English and zoology. She got me that job when we, met online, like, through the class, like, with our dog biology class. She was talking about, like, the dog daycare in Fort Collins, and I was like, whoa, like, that sounds so cool. I want to work at a dog daycare like her. And then she's like, yeah, we're hiring now. Like, you should apply. And I did. Her name is Brianna. And yeah, it's crazy because, like, I figured, if I want to be trusted with, like, taking care of tigers or elephants or rhinos or crocodiles or hyenas or bears or, like, big cats or dogs or wolves, I should say, like, might as well start big, like, take baby steps, like, little paw prints until we get there. So dogs it is, for the time being, at least. It's been really hectic there lately. But yeah, like, it's not forever. Like, it's not a career. It's just, like, something that puts bread on the table for now. It's the minimum wage without benefits. So I gotta find something that's at least better than minimum wage that does have benefits. And animal-related. Not gonna be easy, but I'm really determined to do it. Alright, hey, I'm pretty tired, and I got some editing to do. You guys have a fantastic night. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Like, if you got it to the end of this video, thank you so much. You totally didn't have to take this much time out of your evening, but you chose to anyway. I strongly appreciate it. Again, Mutvilla Bayante Sungum Tadana. I hope to hear from you soon. And yeah, you guys have a good night and stay beastly.